Hey guys, what's up? So today I decided to take a bit of a break from drawing, and so I thought, why not make some clay magnets again? I've done this in the past, but these days I haven't actually been doing anything besides drawing, so I figured, hey, why not do some sculpting? So let's make some magnets. I'm going to start by distributing some of the clay just to make my life easier when I make some of my shapes. I like to roll them up into little balls because this helps me gauge what size they should be, and then I compare them, and that's how I decide how much to use for each one. Some shapes may be bigger or require more clay, but generally I try and keep them the same size. You can also weigh the clay. I used to do this, but these days I just look and guesstimate the size. And then at the end I go back to any that look a little bit smaller and I'll add more clay or take away clay if need be. Once I'm done, to make space again on my tiny desk, I'm going to put them in this Pyrex glass dish that is very much oven safe. And then I'm going to go to the next step. Alright, so the next step is to smoosh the clay into the designs in the top left. I'm going to make some houses, mountains, and circular designs. So I'm going to start by smushing the clay into a circle with the base of my glass. When you don't have the proper equipment like rolling pins, you tend to get creative. So a glass, a pen, anything will do to just get it to this kind of shape. You want to flatten it and try and make it as even as possible, but I will say after everything, once it is fired, I'm not cooking them in a kiln or baking them in a kiln, but once I have baked them in a regular oven, then I will go back in and actually sand them so that they are a lot smoother. And this also helps because if any fine dust or hair gets stuck in them, the sanding will actually help smoothen it out and get rid of all those nitty-gritty things. Because I am a sucker under pressure, I like to go in with a blunt mechanical pencil. By blunt, I mean not using the actual lead, and I just score the design into the clay. This helps me with cutting because then I don't make as many mistakes and I don't have to start again. So yeah, this is a nifty little trick. Just lightly score the design and then you will have guides on where to cut. Oh, we're gonna do that again because post-editing Tay got lazy. Anyway, here I'm cutting just with this regular little sharp knife. Be careful. I also shake like crazy for some reason. Should probably get that checked out. But as you can see, I'm making a tiny little house, and yeah, I'm just going to repeat this several more times with the various shapes, and I'm going to cut, and smoothen. Let's keep going. Sometimes when I feel really art blocked or I'm struggling to draw something, I feel it's most useful to just step away and focus on another hobby or kind of creative task. And I really enjoyed making things with polymer clay. It is very tedious at times, it takes a lot of work and time, but it is something I enjoy and it does help get me re-inspired to draw when I need it. Once I am finished creating the shapes, I'm going to again put everything in this glass dish, which I will then put in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. I think that's 300 and something in Fahrenheit. I don't know, I'm sorry. But yeah, you can just convert it. It's 180 degrees Celsius and I will bake them for about 15 minutes. I make sure that they don't overlap. And yeah, this is the end result after they have baked and after I have sanded them. Let's continue to the fun part, which is painting. The paints that I use are acrylic gouache and they are Holbein branded. I used to use acrylic, but I found that acrylic tends to dry very shiny, and if you have to layer it multiple times, it tends to be very thick and it can even peel. I do find though that acrylic does work well with the Sculpey clay, but I used to use a different clay and the acrylic paint didn't seem to go very well with it. So that is why I prefer the acrylic gouache. I don't use gouache because obviously gouache reactivates if you use water. So if you wanted to glaze them, then they would probably bleed everywhere. So I do not recommend gouache. But acrylic or acrylic gouache, beautiful. Alright, and then yeah, we're just gonna skip to painting because I don't have the energy to show you how I mix the colors, because half the time I'm just guessing and wasting paint because I mix a lot of the wrong hues. But I found that I like this kind of green, and so this is what I'm going for. I also be sure to paint the sides of the magnet because you will see that. However, the back, the back is not my business, so I don't care about it. If I am selling magnets, then I will actually go and neaten the back. I usually like to sand the back again once they are completed, and then I will also stick the magnet backing on them using resin or super glue. But for now, we're just going to enjoy this painting. As you can see, I was also using some acrylic markers whilst doing these designs because they help neaten things up and I can get a bit of extra detail using the markers rather than the paintbrush, because I still struggle sometimes to be accurate with the paintbrush. I'm not always so familiar with that. So another tip is sometimes, even though acrylic markers are a little bit thicker than a brush, you sometimes have more control. At least for me, that is. Alright, now it's time for some touch-ups. As I said, I use the acrylic markers for touching up and just fixing some things or adding details. So that is what I'm going to be doing here, and then I'm also going to be adding the last bit of details to the designs. So yeah, please just enjoy me adding the final touches to each of these magnets. Sometimes I will also have to go back and add a second layer depending on the color I am using. I even added a third for this one just because I thought it was going to look a little bit better, and I'm glad that I did because the third layer definitely pulled everything together. If you are wondering where I get ideas for my designs, I usually look to Pinterest or other artists who specialize in clay or just work with clay. This isn't really anything new. I'm pretty sure most artists go through a period where they feel the need to make things out of clay. And yeah, I totally recommend it. It's really fun. And yeah, it makes for some cute little gift ideas for your friends. Also, if I do make a mistake, sometimes I will paint over. And again, this is why I prefer the acrylic gouache, because if I were to paint over in acrylic, like I said, it's very thick and the layers get thicker and thicker, so it's less forgiving. I will say though, resin will save you a lot if you are using resin to glaze, because it's very thick. So it has the ability to smoothen out many things and to hide many mistakes. But for me, because I'm not using resin, I have to be extra careful. So we're going to add the final touch to this piece, which is the little shiny eyes. Then these are all my designs. Yes, the theme was very much green and a little bit of blue, I suppose. And this is them before they have been glazed. And now we're gonna go into glazing. I wait a whole 24 hours before I glaze them so that the paint and everything is dry. Again, I've learned from my mistakes. And when I glaze them, I make them a little bit higher up using press stick, or I guess you guys call it white tack. And then I'm going to use the Sculpey satin finish gloss, or satin glaze, and I'm going to use this small paintbrush and I'm going to go in and paint them. I'm going to use a very thin layer. I don't want to use too much. You will see over time my brush does pick up some of the green paint. Thankfully it didn't smudge anything, but I will go and wash the brush when this happens so that I don't start distributing the ink or the paint onto other pieces. And yeah, again, like I said, I'm going to add a thin layer. It does dry clear, so you don't have to worry about the white that you see, because that will disappear. As you can see, my brush is green now. So I will go and wash it and do it again. I also then wait 30 minutes between coats, and I'm going to put one more coat, but this is the finish. So it is quite shiny, but it's not as glossy as it could be because there is a gloss glaze and I'm using the satin glaze. So this is a little bit more mild, but I actually do want to get the glossy one and see what that looks like, because I do tend to like the glossy finish. But I am very happy with how these turned out. And as you can see, there's hardly any mess. I didn't have to worry about using resin and drying it with the UV light. So 100% recommend a glaze for a more organic finish and to also keep yourself safe and healthy during the process. And these are the pins after the second and last coat. Alright, it is finally time to glue the magnet backings onto the back of these designs. So for that, I'm going to be using some of these black magnets. I do encourage you to use the small silver ones if you can find, but any will do. And then I'm also going to use some super glue. Just be careful because I glued 2 of my fingers together and now I have super glue residue all over them, and it takes about a week to come out, so that's fun. Anyway, so I just lay these out on my cutting board to make it easier, and then I will go in with a little bit of super glue, not too much. A little really does go a long way and you have to work very fast. That is the one pain of super glue. And actually I put this backing on really skew, and then as you can see I'm fighting for my life to try and move it, and yeah, it didn't budge. But onwards we go. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing to all the designs and just try and be very careful so that I can get them as centered as possible. And as you can see, I didn't neaten the backs because I don't plan to sell these designs. I will probably gift them to some friends or keep some for myself. This was a kind of a practice round to get back into it after not doing it for a while. But yeah, overall I had a lot of fun. And then here are the final magnets. Overall, I'm super happy with them. I think they look really cute and I'm really happy with the glaze. All that's left to do is find what am I going to do with 30 magnets. But as for this one, it can live over here. Anyway guys, that's all for today. Thanks for watching.